The art of rewatching or rereading something in the context of anime and manga is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. For example, the short story Gentle Goodbye by Junji Ito within the Fragments of Horror collection, and which sticks out to me as one of his best works. I'm focusing on this in particular because in a deleted video where I attempted to explain my love for the story, I did so off script and fueled by my admiration of Digibro's content. However, unlike Digibro, who is very persuasive in these videos and has a very clear message, my video was instead all over the place, and so consider this video rebirth of that one. The plot is told through the perspective of Riko, who's just gotten married to a guy named Makoto and slowly move into his family's house. We are led to believe that they are distant towards her, with the exception of Makoto's little sister Tomoko, because Makoto went against their wishes and married her regardless of this. During the story, she learns about after images, an amalgamation of all the different family members' memories of a loved one who has recently passed away and being manifested into a physical form. However, over time this projection degrades, and with the typical lifespan of the after image being 20 years. The story itself focuses heavily on how the different characters cope with grief, only getting amplified by the story's plot twist, in which I'll get onto later. One thing I'd like to quickly go over is Riko's relationship with her father. At the start of the story, she explains that even from a young age she was terrified of the thought of him dying and would have nightmares about this. I thought that may have been caused by the death of her mother, and who died when Riko was very young. She then goes on to explain the events of one recurring nightmare, and which reads as follows. I often dreamed another dream, a dream where my father turned into a toy. At first, I loved it and played with it, but in the end I left it in the drawer. And then, as the long months passed, my toy father went off somewhere without me realising. I feel like you can interpret this symbolically, however, as it kind of matches her current situation as an adult. She's just married, living with his family, and so she's not going to be seeing as much of her father. The toy disappearing without her knowing could be symbolic of her father dying without her being present, and so being shocked as her reaction. This may be a stretch, but I do personally find that this could have been written intentionally, as to suggest a connection between the nightmares and the current life. Later on in the story, there's a funeral being held for Riko's father-in-law, during which Riko's father turns up, has a short conversation with her, and then leaves. As he goes, you can clearly see Riko's face change from being delighted to see him to clearly saddened by not getting to see him longer. It's also worth mentioning that during the story she never refers to him by his name, neither is it said in the story, and during this funeral scene she even refers to him as daddy, despite them both being adults. This could be Junji Ito further making a connection that they have a very close relationship, and even if they are not seeing each other as much. Junji Ito could be using this to suggest that if the father was to pass away, then it would obviously have a far greater effect on her, compared to how some other people react to being in the same situation, and since she's always been very close to him. Don't forget about this conversation, however. The reason? Well, it's given a new meaning after the plot twist, and which showcases how rewatching or rereading something can be an art in itself. Later on in the story, Riko gets upset after being told that they can't make an art image of her father, as they don't know him very well, and so making it impossible. Tomoko goes to comfort Riko, and then it's revealed that Tomoko herself is an after image. Riko brings this up with Makoto, who feels that she died 10 years ago from getting sick, and adding that her after image has begun to grow hazier. In a heartbreaking scene between Tomoko and her mother starts to cry one tear, and instead of it hitting against Tomoko's skin, it is instead suggested that the tear has gone through her. Here, Junji Ito uses art to suggest that Tomoko eventually fade and leave her mother once again, perhaps indicating that the grief which she tried to stop with the after image has instead just delayed the inevitable, and perhaps making it worse now than it would have been if she just went through the process beforehand. Of course, some of the ghosts, such as Makoto's great-great-grandmother, become not needed, and so them disappearing when they do wouldn't affect the family as much, but Tomoko disappearing would obviously have a great effect on everyone, and so suggested here especially by her mother. Near the end of the story, the plot twist is revealed. It turns out that Riko herself is in the after image and who died the day before her engagement ceremony. As Riko leaves the house, we see her being greeted by Tomoko one last time, and who now looks like a cloud of smoke desperately trying to match her image. Riko says goodbye to her and then goes to spend the 10 years she's got left with her father. It's a short story of an unpredictable plot twist, and which was amplified by a wholesome ending. It also shows the art of rereading something, as now you can interpret that they didn't want Makoto to bring her back as an after image, perhaps influenced by what they've learned from doing it to Tomoko, so it remains distant towards her because of this, and not because of the reason that Riko is told. I also feel like the questions that Riko's father asks her could be viewed in a different light in retrospect, especially the close-up of his face, which while appearing happy does also look a bit forced, and especially upon rereading it. I could be looking too deep into this, but from rereading it I had a different experience and caught on to things that I didn't the first time. Another example I'd like to bring up, but for a whole other reason, is the anime I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying, and which is a slice of life comedy anime which I adore. Some people would be put off from the show, given that each episode is 3 minutes long, but instead I felt like this helped it instead, as within this time span it focuses on what the episode aims to be about, and is packed with jokes which often stand the test of time due to their relatability. Also, there's 2 seasons of the show, so there's plenty of content to consume and enjoy. Of course, I've also watched both seasons twice now, as it's very hard for the show to become stale, and which is helped by each episode being contained within the constraints of 3 minutes, meaning that they quickly set up an interesting plot, and which is very persuasive to follow through. I currently have the show rated as an 8 on my anime list, as it stands out to me as one of the best short anime series there is. Contrasting is Lucky Star, a longer show which I've only recently gotten into, but already like watching due to the different plot narratives that are split up so are easy and fun to sit through. Therefore, I'd more come to the conclusion that shows should aim to use the time that they're given well.